time.
Don't waste your time on me. You're already the voice inside my head. I miss you. I miss you. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, that was an amazing song. I wonder who is singing behind the mask. Who could it be?
Really nerve-wracking. Here we go.
The time's come. Oh my gosh, wait a second.
What? Is there a problem?
You're that bigot who spews hatred for PragerU, aren't you?
I work for PragerU, yeah. I don't know about the hatred part.
This is just too much for me. I'm out of here. I'm not standing here to watch this bigotry. Bye, Felicia.
I don't get why you guys invited me on this show. And scene. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Will and Amala Live. We just reenacted a scene that you guys are probably going to see play out on The Masked Singer, because we've heard there's some drama behind Rudy Giuliani being on the show. We will get to that story a little bit later in the program today, though. We're going to be talking about Susan Sarandon. We have an update from Will. We're going to be talking about some high school students who have been staging walkouts and protest against masks in their classrooms. We're also going to be discussing children having speech issues because of the masking we've been doing for the past 2 years. Plus, the Olympics is looking a little dystopian. We got an awesome video of a based grandma confronting a shoplifter, and it's Throwback Thursday, which Taylor's going to kick off with a fun topic that you guys will see at the end of the show. Guys, hope you're watching on the Will and Amala Live channel instead of the PragerU channel, because that's what we're going to be switching over to very, very soon. So go check out Will and Amala Live. It's in the description down below. Give that a subscribe, a follow, and click that notification bell to be notified every single day when we go live. I'm going to be reading the comments from the stream, but on the Will and Amala Live channel. So go check it out. Now, let's get into Susan Sarandon. You might hear the name Susan Sarandon and go, who?
That was my reaction.
That was Taylor's reaction.
You knew her and I did not.
I know Susan Sarandon from a number of movies. She is a quite famous actress. I know her best from the movie Thelma and Louise, one of my favorite movies to watch. So this is an unfortunate story playing out here. She's also been in Lovely Bones. She was in Little Women. She's got quite an IMDb page for a woman of her stature in her career. So Susan Sarandon is catching heat because she tweeted this out. So if all these cops weren't needed for crime that day, doesn't that mean they aren't needed any day? And I'll give you some context here. So recently in New York City, there was a police officer who was killed. And we saw that they held a vigil for him. His wife came and did a speech, a press conference talking about how progressive policies led to the death of her husband. And they had a ceremony for this young man, and police officers from all across New York showed up to celebrate his life and to give their condolences. Now, these pictures were posted of all the officers standing around the coffin here, and Susan Sarandon decided to tweet this out. I'll read it again. So if all these cops weren't needed for crime that day, doesn't that mean they aren't needed any day?
It's ironclad logic, though.
Ironclad logic. I just cannot. I cannot imagine getting on my phone and looking at police officers at the memorial of a fellow police officer and then going, you know what? I need to tweet this out. I need to tweet out an anti-cop statement right now to really show where I stand on this. And there's no logic behind this whatsoever. These officers taking a moment out of their day to go to a memorial, and you, Susan Sarandon, feel the need to tweet about this.
Yeah, talk about just awful timing and a lack of self-awareness. And I mean, this is a time in which even we reacted the other day to the video of this slain officer's wife, who's distraught over the state of affairs in policing. And there's a lot of conversation now happening about how the police is, sorry, I've heard your stuff come through the mic, how the police's hands are tied while they're going through their business and trying to do their jobs. And here you have a celebrity, instead of tweeting about raising awareness so that, hey, fewer police officers get killed in the line of duty because of how poorly resourced they are, because their hands are tied with laws that don't let them keep criminals behind bars after they take them off the street. No, let's not talk about that. Let's say, oh, well, we just must not need police, because if all of them can attend this slain officer's funeral, then, if they have time to do that, then and nothing bad is happening, then we're fine. It's like the lack of self-awareness and the poor timing. It's just distastefulness. It's just awful.
It really is just awful. And you got to think that she tweeted this out and thought, I just owned those police officers. I just owned the political right on this one because I noticed something, and that these police officers aren't doing their jobs at this particular moment. First of all, police officers have shifts, so I'm sure not all of these men and women were on the clock while this was happening. But also, they are memorializing a colleague. I don't have much more to say about this story other than it's just completely and utterly tone deaf on Susan Sarandon's part. And she's been known to be an extreme leftist and a radical leftist, so this does not surprise me, but oh my goodness, could you have waited a day?
Her social media bio says activist, not just actress. So
oh my gosh,
it was very important for her to weigh in on this immediately.
So does every single bartender and waiter in LA. They all have activist in their bio, which is just hilarious. It's like a culture here that if you believe in any sort of social issue from a politically left standpoint, you're an activist, and everybody has that in their bio. So it means absolutely nothing. I went to a BLM rally once, so I'm an activist. Let's move on. We have an update from Will. Guys, you guys haven't seen Will on the show here this week.
Who?
And yeah, literally who? It should be called the Taylor and Amala show at this point because Will has been gone all week and he will be gone all next week because he is going on a short little tour around Europe, flouncing around, doing Will's thing.
Somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it, as Will would say. We can't all be William Witt. And here is his Instagram check-in with you guys to let you guys know how everything has been going. Here's your Will update.
Guys, let everyone join in. This is Will Witt here. We're here in Romania. I know this isn't me showing anything off of Romania. This is just my hotel room. But you guys, well, PragerU, we're in Los Angeles.
Thanks, Will.
It's only about 1 p.m.
Beautiful.
there. And in Romania, it's about 10 p.m. So I'm having to do this a lot later. But I wanted to come on and talk to you guys about my travels in Europe, because I know that most of you guys, if you follow me on Instagram, you're following PragerU, you haven't seen much from me, or if you watch Will and Amala live, you haven't seen me on the show this week. I have been in Romania today, had a very long drive getting into Romania, was in Budapest for the last 3 days, and then I was in Amsterdam before that. So I've been all over Europe, and then in 2 days I go to Monaco, and then I go back to Amsterdam, and then I come home. So I've been all over Europe. And so I want to come and tell you guys a little update on what I've been seeing. Amsterdam, they ask for every single thing, basically your entire livelihood, your ID, Vax card, social security number, address, everything. They are very strict in Amsterdam when it came to most of the things. Going to Hungary then, if you guys know anything about Hungary, you know Hungary is a more conservative country in many of the ways that their government does things. But when it comes to COVID, they are not really all that conservative, in American conservative sense when it comes to COVID regulations. Romania has been pretty chill so far. They make you wear masks everywhere. You have to do a negative test to stay at a hotel. But actually, we ended up almost getting stopped by Romanian border control, which was a very scary thought, thinking that I might go to a Romanian jail and be stuck there forever. But I wanted to come on and talk to you guys about the appreciation that people in these Eastern European countries have for things that Americans take for granted. If you go to America and you talk to a normal citizen, first of all, they're not even going to know what Hungary is. They're not going to know what Romania is. They couldn't point to them on a map. And secondly, if you talk to them about communism, they're not even going to know that these countries were affected by communism, right? So these people in Romania and Hungary, they have dealt with the horrors, the death, the famine, the disease, all of the terror that communism has brought. I went to the House of Terrors, which is a museum in Budapest, which goes through all of the timeline of communism throughout Hungary and what happened there, how people were being taken away to camps, how people were having essentially kangaroo courts in Hungary. The people in America just do not appreciate the same things whatsoever. The people in America, when you talk about communism, they say, oh yeah, communism's fine, it's just another political ideology. Yeah, you have capitalism and then you have communism, and it's just two sides of the same coin. But the people who have lived through it, The generations who have lived through communism in these Eastern European countries know that this isn't just some alternative to capitalism. This isn't just another economic system that you can try out and maybe it works kind of well, maybe it doesn't. No, this system kills millions of people. It has killed millions of people. 100 million people in the last 100 years is what communism killed. And so to be in a place and see these people, and if you look at a lot of the older generation of people in these Eastern European countries, you're going to see that, I don't want to categorize all of them, but there's definitely a somberness to many of these people and what they experience. They've dealt with horrible, horrible things for years and years and are just now, picking up the pieces since 1990 in Romania's case. And it's a culture shock. It's definitely a culture shock for sure. Being in Budapest and being in Romania, you see so many of the old communist buildings. I mean, they're run down. They're horrible architecture. It's steel, concrete type of buildings that just look terrible. All the older buildings, 19th century buildings, are just left in ruins. It's a sad fate of what has happened to these countries in the past and their recovery now. So my message to all of you guys right now is that communism is not something to play around with. Communism is not just some other political ideology that you can debate with people. Communists should be just as hated as Nazis, okay? Communism should be a dirty, dirty word in America. You shouldn't be allowed to be a member of Congress and say anything about liking communism, because communism leads to deaths of millions and millions of people. So next time you talk to communists, just know that. And I urge all of you guys, if you can figure out a way to finagle your way into Europe, even with all these restrictions and craziness, you should visit Eastern Europe. You should go to Hungary, you should go to Romania, you should go to Serbia, Czech Republic, all these places, and see what it's all about. And go to the museums, see what communism has wrought upon these countries. I mean, I'm hearing the stories of a guy who we were with in Romania today who drove us from Budapest, drove through about 6-hour drive from Budapest to Cluj, is a city that I'm now in Romania. And they're talking about like their grandparents were slaves. I mean, their grandparents were literally slaves in this country, right? Their great-grandparents were slaves to the Ottoman Empire. This was 150 years ago, right? Where we were talking to them about, what our grandparents and great-grandparents did. Oh, they're a lawyer, they worked at some newspaper, whatever it is. And they're like, yeah, my grandparents were slaves, or they dealt with communism. It's like this is the level of generational knowledge and history of these people, is that they don't have a history like we do in the States. It's something that people in America take for granted. It's been a complete culture shock for me to see all of these people and what they believe about the world, communism, and just their outlook on life. They're much tougher than Americans. That's for sure. Most of these people in Eastern Europe are much, much tougher than Americans, and that's obvious. So just want to come on, update you guys on what I'm doing here in Europe. I'm going to be back in a week or so. I'll be in Monaco this weekend, and then Amsterdam again, and then back to St. Louis speaking with Candace in St. Louis next Saturday. And yeah, that's about it, guys. It's been my first time outside of the U.S. It's been quite the wonderful experience, and I'm excited to come back to America. There's a lot of things that are different. Portion sizes, this one's massive. If you go and get a coffee, if you get a large coffee, you say, hey, I would love a large coffee, and they give you a coffee that's about this big. It's very annoying.
Oh. I don't think he knows that his sound went out at the end of that, but there's your update from Will. Communism and portion sizes.
And you did whatever he said after that.
And whatever he said, he actually just told the secret to unlock happiness in that very end of that live stream, but we've missed it. Because
the antidote to communism and evil.
Right,
almost had it.
Right.
We'll have to wait till he gets back.
The actual formula for a COVID-19 vaccine, he said in the end of that video.
The good thing is, if you subscribe to Will and Amala Live's YouTube channel, when Will does get back, he can reveal all of those secrets.
Exactly. And you guys better be subscribing to Will and Amala Live. I'm reading your comments here. People, what do I say? Guns don't kill people, people kill people. The show is missing its spark without Will. What can we tell you?
Wow.
We don't make the rules.
Someone said Romania does have beautiful architecture, which I'm sure it does.
Yes, I'm sure it
I don't
does.
know. I'm sure he was just talking in generalities about the communist architecture.
Sure.
We'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yes, we will give Will the benefit of the doubt on that one. Now let's move on to the skit with which we open the show, and that is the Masked Singer skit. So for those of you who don't know this show or are unfamiliar with it, Fox has a show called The Masked Singer, and what they do is they bring on celebrities of all types and backgrounds, and they put on these ridiculous costumes, as is pictured on this particular tweet. And they sing songs, and they have a set of judges, I believe 4 judges on this show, that try to guess who the celebrity is underneath this costume. And sometimes they guess, sometimes they don't. But that is the goal of the show. Our buddy Rudy Giuliani did the Masked Singer, which even hearing that, I was like, what is going on here? Rudy Giuliani did a singing show on the Fox network.
I mean, he's done some interesting things over the years.
He's done some interesting things in his life. Singing on a Fox show was not what I expected it to be the case, but this is exactly what happened. He sang on The Masked Singer, and when he took off his costume, his mask, judges Ken Jeong, you guys know him, he's a physician as well as an actor and a comedian, and Robin Thicke, the singer, quickly left the stage in protest. They could not believe that underneath that mask was sitting a prowling Rudy Giuliani singing show tunes to the audience.
The horror.
The horror.
Utter horror.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe it. I feel oppressed just being around this singing old man. It's just amazing to me. And I saw this story and I went, you know what, whatever. I guess they can do whatever they want. But I really sat and thought about it. Is there a single leftist in this world that I would be sitting on a show listening to, and when they took off their mask, I would leave in protest? Not that I can think of. Dr. Fauci could be up there tap dancing and singing, and when he took his mask off, I would just be like, what the hell is Dr. Fauci doing in front of me right now?
Singing New York, New York.
I wanna shut it down again. New York, New York. Yeah, I can imagine.
Jab your arm again.
Yeah, but there's not a single leftist on this planet that I think I would walk away and protest if they showed up on The Masked Singer.
Yeah, you take your chance there to like throw whatever verbal jabs you want, speaking of jabs. But you can just stay there and talk to them, criticize them, say what you want to say. I would relish the opportunity to just say, put someone on blast in front of all of America, but like just, I don't know, walking off in protest like it's some moral grandstanding thing. Just, it feels very like dramatic and
childish.
Yeah.
It's very childish. If you have an issue with somebody, particularly if you're an adult, maybe confront the issue and say, yo, great performance or bad performance. Also, how do you feel about, I don't know, whatever qualm they have with Rudy Giuliani? I'm sure they can have their pick. Or, you know what? Even in this case, I would venture as much to say Ken Jeong is pretty educated. Maybe I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But I would go as far as to say that Robin Thicke is probably not too educated on anything in regard to Rudy Giuliani, and just knows that the name is somebody who is right wing and got up and left the show. Now, that's just speculation, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if all of this was just a massive virtue signal to show I will not stand for someone of this political leaning being in front of me on my show. And contrary to that, Jenny McCarthy and Nicole Scherzinger sat and just bantered with Rudy Giuliani, as one does when they are literally doing their job as a judge on a show.
Yeah, we talked a little bit at lunch today about how the idea of just normal has collapsed, or I don't know how best to say that, but it used to be that something like this happens, and I don't know, like even like the late night TV hosts and everyone would poke equal fun at everybody, and there was just sort of like balance in the universe, and politics wasn't everything, and the air wasn't so charged, and you didn't have to like take this big stand, know, when someone you disagree with politically happens to be on your show. And same thing with we've been talking about all week with like the Joe Rogan controversy, and anytime someone said something that it contradicts the mainstream narrative, they should be censored and abolished from the earth. Oh, this person did something on social media, they just need to be canceled. And it's like, can't we just like have a general layer of like normalcy in the world where you don't immediately resort to having to kick people off and cancel them and just make these giant, I can't even be in the same room as another human being. Like that speaks to a larger issue of where our culture is at right now.
Right. And it shows that it's shifting, because cancel culture, when it started, was not like that at all. If anything, there was a far higher threshold for offense and needing to walk away and deplatform people. And it's getting lower and lower and lower. A good example of that was a story that we covered, I want to say it was a month ago now, or maybe even more than that, with Dave Chappelle and what's his name? The guy who took the picture with Dave Chappelle and then apologized for it.
Patton Oswalt.
Patton Oswalt. Yeah. So he took a picture with Dave Chappelle and the internet freaked out on him purely for a crime of what? Association? For saying, this is my friend and we've been doing comedy together for decades and I admire him. And then had to go and bow down to the woke mob. He didn't have to, but he did. He bowed down to the woke mob about being with him.
Yeah, his apology and his it was like this giant letter of a cash. We covered it on the show, I remember.
Yes.
And he was groveling and he was like, I know I could never understand the harm that I've caused.
I'm so
By
sorry.
taking a picture with Dave Chappelle, are you kidding me?
Right. And he's like, I support him in his career, but I don't support his views on the transgender community. And you try to help the people you love, and cry baby. It's just crazy. And again, cancel culture didn't used to be that. Cancel culture used to be that people would cancel you for your actions, which is not right either, because you don't allow for progress with that form of punishment and that form of vengeance. But again, the threshold is getting lower. Now it's not just the things that you say, it's the things that the people around you say. And then it's not just that, it's whether or not you take pictures with them when you see them years later after not seeing them. Now it's simply being on stage and being on a show and having a differing viewpoint and then people walk off on you. It's just
it's like we saw
wild.
the articles over the holidays of how to deal with your Republican uncle or whatever, and then people wouldn't invite their family members to celebrate the holidays together over politics, and It's just getting so bad right now.
Yeah.
And one other thought I had is, have you watched the Daily Wire's new show with Adam Carolla that they have? He's been having on some more, non-political comedians like TJ Miller. He's been I think he was in Transformers movies.
Yeah, I know TJ Miller.
Yeah, he's not
funny.
openly conservative, but Adam Carolla had him on his show, and I watched the better part of one of them, and it was just normal comedy. It was so refreshing because they were just honest and real, and they probably do have disagreements politically, but you know what, they were able to just coexist and make comedy. Go figure.
Yeah, and it's amazing how easy it is to do that if you just set aside your ignorance. It's unbelievable. I did a show, an interview show that will hopefully be coming out soon. It's called POVs, Point of Views, and it's these young girls who are trying to reach a Gen Z audience, and they're bringing on people of all differing viewpoints to come and talk about who they are and their lives and their personal lives and what their views are and how that came to be. And we need to be having more discussions like that. And even so, these girls are telling me we get so much backlash when we have leftists on. People on the right say, oh, you're a leftist organization. When we have people on the right on, then the left says, oh my gosh, you guys are conservatives. I can't believe it. And they're just there trying to have conversations. It's unbelievable the amount of tribalism that we have in our nation right now, where people cannot even stand the thought of looking at or hearing from somebody who disagrees with them.
Absolutely. And you can probably identify this. This is a comment on our Will and Amala live channel, which you should subscribe to right now, because we'll read your comments on the air.
Yes.
But Lori says, I quit being a liberal because of all the rules of conduct. It's like a cult, very narcissistic and hateful. Does that ring any bells for you?
It does ring some bells for me. There are never-ending rules when it comes to woke leftism, and they are just constantly evolving and devolving and changing and morphing and shifting, and you have to keep up with that while also minding your P's and Q's and not saying the wrong thing, and make sure that you never offend anybody, and that you show the virtue that you have at all points and times that are possible, and you're constantly fighting every single battle that you can fight. And when you don't do that, they call you out and they eat you. It's like the left eats themselves alive often because they are just so obsessed with tribalism and virtue. And the same can be said sometimes for the political right, but just not as often. It's just wild.
Yeah, there's a famous quote from Star Wars about the bad guys. They're called the Sith, and it says only the Sith deal in absolutes. And I feel like, and someone made that comparison, I believe, also in the comments of our show once, is that the woke left really does deal in absolutes. It's like either you say everything we want you to say, you agree with us on every point of our ideology, and if you step outside of that line, you better come groveling and apologize and beg for forgiveness, and we won't forgive you and we'll hold it against you, but at least you'll be in your proper place. And it's not like and then on the other side of their absolutist worldview is if you don't apologize or just subscribe to our worldview and do everything you can to toe the line, then you might as well not exist. You're canceled. You are dead to us. You should not be allowed to participate in society. And that's why when the mask came off and it was Rudy Giuliani, it was like everything was fun and games. Then it's like, oh no, this is a non-person that's allowed. Yeah. This is not a person that's allowed in our world of entertainment and fun and mainstream media stuff. You know, it's like you are donezo, and this is not someone who's allowed. So I don't even know how to process this, but I'm gone because this guy can't be here.
Yeah. It's just ridiculous. And the immediate switch of just like taking off a mask and being who you are, and then suddenly you're hated. It's just unbelievable. And yeah, something that I cannot think of a single person that I would have that response to as of late. Now, let's move on to some students who are fighting the good fight and going against mask protocols at their school. Here's the first tweet here. Oakdale, California students throughout the district are refusing to wear masks. High schoolers have been sent to the gym and filled it with more unmasked students on their way. These kids are following the governor's example, and we are happy to legally support their rights. Here we go. Look at that gym. Good for them. Good for them, man. Keep it up. Stand up for yourself, and you can do that. And when I was in high school, I was doing that for the political left, so, wrong side of things. But this is fantastic, and I love to see it. And again, it shows what strength in numbers can really be. It takes one student to create 30, and that's exactly what we're seeing in these videos here. Here is another one. This is at Washougal High School, and then Easter Vancouver High School and Portland. Here's another one.
Hey. Everybody shut up! Pay attention. This is not an excuse for any of you freshmen and sophomores to disrespect your teachers. If I hear of anybody disrespecting teachers or staff tomorrow, that makes us look bad. We want this to be a peaceful, respectful movement. We are just trying to gain back our rights as citizens.
Wow.
We do not care about the teachers. In the end, are just doing their jobs. It doesn't come from them. It comes from the state. Now, what we're hoping is that they kick us out. This sounds bad, but we're hoping that they kick us out because they have to report that attendance to the state. And if the state sees a day where 100 or I don't even know how many kids are here are absent, they're going to start asking questions. Our hope is we can get this statewide.
This is amazing.
Now, I might get in trouble for this, but the plan still stands for Wednesday. For tomorrow, I mean. Everybody is going to meet at the back row of the senior parking lot, and we're all walking into the school with no mask on. You can get me in trouble, they can suspend me, I don't care. We're done with this. And obviously all of you are too.
Shut up. Shut up.
Obviously all you are done with the mask too.
Let's pause out there. This is amazing. First of all, business in the front, party in the back. Homeboy is speaking all business. This is so great. Actually gave me chills just listening to this kid because it's awesome. It's awesome to go, you know what? I'm going to do what should be done, and that is grassroots organizing and telling students, no, we're not going to do this. We are not going to let you infringe on our lives and on our lifestyles. We are not going to wear these masks. And guess what? If you don't want unmasked children in your school, then send us home and report that to the state. And when schools all over the district and all over the state start to do it, and they get reports of us all being gone, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have to reconcile whether or not we have to wear masks at your school. Amazing stuff.
It's so great. And the fact that he has a mullet just is icing on the cake.
Yes, it's just so good.
But yeah, this is courage. This is leadership. This is what I mean, isn't it just like inspiring listening to him? Because it's so simple. It's just we're standing up for our freedom. We're going to be peaceful about it. You know, he's like, freshmen, shut up. This is not an opportunity for you to disrespect your teachers. That was great. I think he goes on to tell them a little bit later in the video, like, so we're going to go in, and if a teacher stops you and tells you to put a mask on, say, no, I'm not going to do it. And then if they say go home, then you go home. Yes. And that's it. And like, but we're making our statement, but they're laying out, hey, here's what we're doing. They're organizing, and this is how you do it. This is how it's done. And I'm so proud to see this happening. It's like, this is a glimmer of hope. People comment in our show all the time, like, you young people are a breath of fresh air for me watching this, and watching this video is a breath of fresh air for us to see that, you know, people are doing something. Same thing with the truckers in Canada.
Yep, exactly. I just love to see it. It's so fantastic. It's a massive, and both of that, Canada and what these students are doing, is a massive lesson in civil disobedience and doing something that not only has a massive impact, but does not hurt people for you to do it. And I love that he started off, like you said, Taylor, he started off his speech with saying, this is not an excuse to be disrespectful to teachers. They are simply doing their jobs. And so often that is the case. And what we may see here is a group of students that inspires teachers to do the same. And how beautiful would it be to have the students teach the teachers a lesson here? And I think that would be so remarkable. And I think it's something that we're going to see happen. And yeah, just an amazing, amazing thing. I just want to show these little graphs here that other students are like sending out about no masks in class and all of this. Here's one that says, this is my responsibility. My words, my behavior, my actions, my efforts, my mistakes, my ideas, and the consequences of my actions. This is not my responsibility. Other people's words, other people's mistakes, other people's beliefs, the consequences of other people's actions, other people's opinions, and other people's ideas. We still have kids that are being raised right.
How does this strike you as someone who used to protest and be involved in leftist activism? Mm-hmm. What are some of the distinctions that you see here that differentiate this type of activism, which they're talking about responsibility, they're talking about, you know, just making a simple stand and not, you know, decrying to tear down the system and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to see just how this hits you as someone who used to reorganize on the left.
You know, there's a lot less anger. Immediately I can recognize a lot less anger. And I guess it doesn't speak to all leftists and all the protests that happen, but the ones that I was involved in, which was quite often, were so much more angry than these young people are. And the distinction between, you know, the actual system in itself and the elites and the state versus these teachers. If I was protesting, you know, with the left, we would have been yelling at the teachers and saying, how dare you, and all this stuff. And these kids go, no, I have respect for them, and I understand that they're just doing their jobs. We just want to keep this to ourselves and do something that involves our business and our daily lives. And that is a massive distinction there, is that when I was protesting with people on the left, it was to change the entire system, to transform the entire society, and then go, you don't believe what I believe, and you don't stand by my thoughts and what my policy prescription is, but you're going to have to, and you're going to conform to it. And I will yell at you and scream at you and make your life harder until you do. And these people are saying, yo, you want to wear a mask? You wear a mask. You want to get vaccinated? You get vaccinated. However, you don't get to enforce that on me, and I'm not going to do it. And that's a massive difference between what I was doing and what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it seems as though on the right, a lot of activism on the right is more aspirational, mm-hmm. and it more is about appealing to the higher ideals. It's like, no, I have a right to liberty, and I'm here to make my statement, to point out and draw attention to that right that's being violated. Whereas on the left, it's more about, no, you're the bad system, and the system is against us, and we need to tear this down and destroy it and burn this whole thing to the ground. And until we are the ones in power, and until we get all this bad people out of the way, we're not gonna sit down, and we're gonna keep causing havoc and chaos. And it's a difficult distinction to wrap your brain around, but there's definitely something to that.
There is. It's just, there's a certain tonal quality to it that is completely different, even though the avenue is the same, and that is civil disobedience. But yeah, there's just something totally different about it, and I think it derives from what the outcome is to be, and where a lot of people on the left want to control how things go. People on the other end of the coin want to understand it and then have their place and have their own individual place that they can make unique to themselves and make their own choices. And that's all that they're asking. So fantastic. These students are fantastic. I hope all goes well. I hope they all stick to their guns, and if they're told to leave the school, they leave the school. And I hope this makes a change for the state. There's nothing better than organizing people who are like-minded and doing something like this. This is what creates change. It truly, truly does. And yeah, if you've lost hope in young people, don't. Because these videos are proof that there are still some brilliant, fantastic young people out there. Yeah. Not much more to say. I could just talk about this all day long. It's so fantastic. Meanwhile, while high school students are being forced to go to school with masks on, here are your fave celebrities: Leonardo DiCaprio, Jessica Alba, not wearing masks.
Cedric the Entertainer.
Cedric the Entertainer. For those of you who know who that is. Oh, no mask. No mask.
Oh, we don't know who that guy is.
Leo. Chin masked. Fantastic. But we'll all cheer on the COVID regulations and pushing it on young people and forcing people to get vaccinated and thinking that we're doing that for the greater good and that everybody else who's not doing that is non-compassionate grandmother killers. So rules for thee, but not for me. Constantly.
Yeah, these students are just horrible, super spreaders. Horrible
rebels. How dare they? And we don't even get to mention the politicians who are also present at this, which is unfortunate because it goes against PragerU rules as an organization. But just know that there were also politicians present.
We're in a state of emergency, guys.
Yes.
This is very serious.
Yes.
It's so serious in California that we are under a state of emergency. We have to have vax passes to go anywhere. And also, by the way, we're hosting the Super Bowl.
It's just awesome. A particular politician who I will not name by name was photographed without a mask on after pushing for masks and saying that they're completely necessary in the city that he runs, and has since come out and said, "Oh no, I was holding my breath when that photo was taken." That's his excuse.
That's science right there. It's like they really. I tweeted this yesterday. Like they really think we're stupid. They must, because how do you? It's like, don't pee on me and tell me it's raining. You know, like you can just hold your breath and that you have an exemption from your own rules because it just makes no sense.
Be consistent. If you are going to say that you are pro-mask and pro-mask mandate and then not wear your mask, what is going on? What is going on? And of course, I'm very much anti-mask. So, I'm happy to see people who are saying, I'm not going to wear it. But if that's what you're doing, if that's how you're leading your life, then say that masks aren't necessary. Don't go out and say the opposite and then force children to wear them in schools. I'm seeing videos on TikTok specifically of parents mask training their children. And these are babies and 1-year-olds and 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds where they're putting them in the house where they're playing and doing their thing, putting masks on these children and saying they're mask training them for compliance purposes when they go to school or when they go out.
It's horrifying.
The dissonance is just unbelievable.
I want to try this one the next time I'm on a plane. Is like, you're like, you heard about the guy who had a French fry in his mouth the entire flight?
Right. Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
Just hold your breath every time the stewardess walks by, and just be like, hey, it worked. It was good enough for some of our politicians and elites and celebrities to just, apparently you can just hold your breath.
Exactly.
And it keeps everything
I'm taking a selfie and I'm holding my breath. So that's okay for me. Unbelievable. Yeah. Let my 2-year-old breathe in his own carbon dioxide for mask compliance, because that is great. That is good for children. Speaking of masks not being good for children, here is a news clip from 25WP-BF talking about the effect that masks have had on speech patterns in children.
Jacqueline Thicke says during this pandemic, her speech therapy clinic has seen an enormous shift in the ages of their patients. Before the pandemic, only 5% of patients were babies and toddlers. Today, it has soared to 20%. Many parents calling it COVID delayed.
We've seen a 364% increase in patient referrals of babies and toddlers from pediatricians and parents.
And they are children that are having a difficult time speaking.
Speech delayed.
Babies start learning how to speak by reading lips as young as 8 months. So what happens when lips and faces are covered up by masks?
Oh, I wonder.
Therapists say for some kids, they can work around the mask and still learn to speak perfectly fine. But for others, it can cause speech delays.
There's no research out there yet to say that this could be causing speech and language delays, but most definitely it's, I'm sure, a factor. It's very important kids do see your face to learn, so they're watching your mouth.
That's orange. Can you say orange? That was a good try.
Pause there. Oh, it's so weird. If only somebody had said this 2 years ago at the outset of this pandemic. If only.
If only.
If only one had speculated and said, hey, wouldn't it be a little weird for children that normally see, I don't know, facial expressions, see your lips move when you pronounce certain words, look at your mouth to see what you are thinking and feeling? Wouldn't that be weird if they could no longer do that for, say, a period of, 2 years? Wouldn't that harm children? Wouldn't that harm not only their psychological, but their intellectual development? Looks like the answer is yes.
It's horrible too. I mean, our friend Tim Ballard, who works with Operation Underground Railroad, rescuing children from the sex trade, slavery, all this stuff, says his biggest thing, one of the things he says is the children don't have a voice, and he tries to be the voice for them. And for 2 years, our voiceless children, who now can't even speak, apparently, because they're being robbed of the ability to see faces from adults and from people as they're in their formative years of language acquisition. And we have no idea how deep the damage that we're doing is to children by not allowing them. And it's not just about the mass, it's about not letting them be in person, be properly socialized, just have a normal development, and those stages are so critical. And if you are going to alter that or take that away, there has to be an extremely valid reason why. And if you look at the data around this stuff, there's not. And there's a lot of this stuff, if you look at the hashtag Unmask Our Children on social media, there's a lot of great information going around out there, a lot of movements. And I'm encouraged to see everything from the student protest that we started with, that there are people who are calling out this madness and beginning to hopefully turn the tides.
Yeah, it's just simply unacceptable. It really is unacceptable that kids have been subjected to this for 2 years. And like you said, we will not know the full extent of the damage that we've done, not even decades from now, I'm sure. And it's not just young kids like this. It's kids that have been taken out of the, formative years in school, elementary school, middle school, high school. We had a young girl who was in the UK talking about what happened to her with lockdowns and having her school shut down, and just in tears over how badly it decimated the education that she was seeking and the experiences that she was supposed to have as a young person. All of that robbed, and for what? Because we knew young people were not in danger. We knew this to be a fact from the outset. And yet we still rob them of this. And you've got kids not only with the development and the teaching and the learning, but kids who are being domestically abused at home, kids who committed suicide and have mental health issues that will stay with them forever. And on top of all that, just instilling from a young age a fear of germs and a virus that is not deadly to them. That fear is going to stay with a lot of these children for a very, very long time. Who's to say how long? And it's just so saddening to see it. And they will never get their due. There will be nothing reparative about what happens when we decide that this is able to pass and we can go on with our lives. These kids are going to be affected, and then we're going to have to try to catch up with them. And it's going to be difficult. You've handcuffed an entire generation of children, and they're going to be less developed than they should be. And it's so unfortunate. So unfortunate. Yeah.
It is. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a parent out there and you're finding ways to parent your children through this insanity and having success, or, leave us a comment. I'd love to hear some positive stories in the midst of all this, because it's pretty depressing to just see the harmful effects of these mandates.
Yeah, let us know down below, parents. Comment down below what you did with your children during the pandemic to keep them of sound mind and of sound heart. Now, it continues. The pandemic hysteria continues, because here's a video out of Beijing where the Olympics is being held in their bar.
Doesn't that just look like a blast?
I feel like I'm watching like a Christopher Nolan film. It feels just really, really dystopian and so detached from life.
Yeah, I mean, what do you say about
what
this?
do you say?
It's. I mean, if you're listening on the podcast, this is a guy, a bartender in PPE equipment,
Full
head to
hazmat.
toe. Yeah, full hazmat suit.
Yeah.
Just mixing a drink in Beijing, which, I mean, what do you say?
What do you say other than just welcome? Welcome to the new world where
Two
this
years
is
into
standard.
this.
2 years in. Remember 2 weeks to slow the spread, guys. Remember 2 weeks to slow the spread. I saw a tweet that was actually funny. They were talking about the truckers in Ottawa, and like it said, like, government, when will the truckers stop their convoy and trucker in 2 weeks after we slow the spread? Brilliant response. Love it, love it, love it. Use their own logic and their own lies against them. So yeah, very, very dystopian. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know now, we really are not going to be covering the Olympics, just out of sheer unwillingness to talk about anything that's happening in Beijing and in China other than what the CCP is doing, their concentration camps and their human rights violations against the people that live in that country. So if you guys want Olympic updates on who's taking home gold and silver and bronze and all that fun stuff, it will not be on this show. So
yeah, we love the curling. It's so fun to watch, but
yep.
Not in China.
I love
this year.
figure skating, but not when it's sponsored by the CCP. So I will not be watching. I will not be consuming any Olympic content. I will not be discussing it. So we will let other people do that. Whoever would like to.
It's so on the nose for the global community to hold these games, these world games, in the capital city of the CCP, under whose watch the virus that has turned the world upside down over the last 2 years they released it. And instead we're skipping, instead of calling it the G variant, which was the letter of the Greek alphabet that was up to be named, we just skipped that letter just so we didn't offend the Chinese dictator, to call it Omicron instead of Z. And here we are. It's just the insanity.
The last 2 years, I really want you to think about this. The last 2 years of your life and everything that has happened in regard to COVID-19 is caused by that particular country, purposefully, and through a leak. And people still want to watch the Olympics in Beijing. I'm like, what?
Yeah. And where is the accountability? There's no one's even interested in investigating this, in holding them accountable on the world stage in any way. It's pretty disgusting. It
is pretty disgusting. Now, before we go on to Throwback Thursday, one last video here. And this video is awesome. And I want to give this woman just her kudos for doing what she did here. Here's the video of a shoplifter trying to leave a store and being confronted by an old lady who is not having it. Here we go.
You gonna pay for that?
Huh?
You gonna pay for that?
Yeah.
Where?
Huh?
You gonna pay for it?
Excuse me. I'm fed up with this bullshit. Goddamn.
Come on, bud.
Fuck off, asshole.
Come on.
Get out.
Come on.
Get out.
Language warning. Sorry, guys.
Take your shit and go. Fuck off.
Okay, we'll pause it there. I forgot how.
You guys get the message.
I forgot how strongly worded the woman was.
Yeah.
But yeah, amazing. The amount of bravery you have to be a woman. That man could have rocked her stuff like immediately as she blocked him and pulled his mask off. She put herself in a pretty dangerous situation. But guess what? She got most of the stuff back. He got a measly little backpack that he got to run off with, and she got the cart of goods. So good for her, doing more than the police are able to do because of these stupid policies in cities now. Good for her, doing more than the security will do, doing more than the store staff will do, and stopping people from doing this stuff.
Yeah, it's beautiful to see. I mean, we live in a day where how many more of these videos have we seen where people do stuff and people just stand there? And I mean, we went to the LAPD police station, and you spend a lot of time with them these days, and they'll show us videos of these crimes being committed, people being beaten, and there's tons of witnesses all over, and people just don't intervene and let it happen. And here, it's so refreshing to see this grandma who's like physically overmatched, obviously, by this man, and it's just like, you know what? No, this is wrong. I'm going to intervene. And she just stops the crime from happening just because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. It's amazing. I love it. I will always cheer on people like that. I mean, even on the show, we had Michael Rappaport just take a video of somebody just stealing stuff, and he just watched him, and the security guard just sat and watched him. And this grandma, this older woman, is just throwing down. This is amazing. It's amazing. A Good Samaritan award to this woman, whoever she is. And yeah, hopefully the store gives her something for free or something. I don't know. But guys, that's our final story for today. We're going to get into Throwback Thursday, which Taylor is going to be running today. And I hope you guys are watching on the Will and Amala live channel. I'm going to be reading your comments. We do have a comment from a new subscriber here, so we'll shout it out. Quicksilver says, loving this channel's content gives me hope for this younger generation. New subscriber here. Thank you so much, Quicksilver. We really appreciate it. And we hope to have some more new subscribers. Again, to Will and Amala Live. It's in the description down below. If you're watching on PragerU's channel, go and subscribe there, and eventually we'll be exclusively streaming on that channel. Over to you, Taylor.
Okay, Amala, I have a question for you.
Okay, I'm ready.
Which month of the year, what number month of the year is September?
It is.
This is not a trick question.
Wait, what number month of the year?
Yeah. Which month of the year is September?
Now.
9th.
Yes.
You're right. September. September is 9th.
Yes. Which is strange.
Which month is October?
October is 10th.
October is 10th.
Yeah.
Isn't that
doesn't make sense?
Interesting. Now, so today I had this random thought occur to me the other day.
Yes.
And was very curious. And as one does, I went and searched on the internet this question. Why, if October is it means 8, if oct, O-C-T means 8, why is October the 10th month of the year?
Great question, Taylor.
Great question. Luckily, we found the answer. So if you go to the next slide, this awesome person on Quora, a website where you ask random questions and people answer them.
Yes.
This had a lot of upvotes. So I'm just going to read the answer, and then we're going to look at the names of the months. Okay. So October was the 8th month of the Roman year at one point. The early Romans weren't actually weren't actually terribly good at calendar making. Their year had only 10 months, well short of a solar cycle, with occasional extra intercalary months thrown in when the seasons got too badly screwed up. Somewhere along the line, they realized there should be 12 months. What we now know as January and February were tacked on to the end of the year. This gave the year 355 days, still needing the occasional intercalary. I don't know how to pronounce that word.
Intercalary? I guess so. I don't know.
Intercalary month. Sometimes this intercalary month was used as a political tool to extend the term of office of a favored cohort or to diminish the term of a rival. Julius Caesar, in between his military and political machinations, decreed that the calendar should be regularized. He also renamed Quintilius, Quin means 5, right? After himself. So that's where we get July. Sometimes before Caesar's reforms, January had come to be considered the first month rather than the 11th. Caesar did not change this. Later, Sextilis became August. However, no one bothered to change the names of the other month at the end of the year, and so they're still named after slightly misleading numbers. So apparently we just couldn't be bothered to fix September, October, November 9, December 10.
Lazy.
Yeah, I guess it was just utter laziness that made it happen. So real quick, we'll go through the naming of the months. January is named after the Roman god Janus, who was the god of gates and doorways, depicted with two faces looking in opposite directions.
Interesting. Okay.
February is after this festival called Februa, which is a Roman festival of purification held every February 15th. And this is also the weird one that had 28 days, 23 days, 24 days.
Right. And all the leap stuff.
The leap year,
yes.
And every 4 years you add a day, that type of thing. Next up, March is the Roman god Mars, a god of war, identified with the Greek god Ares. And it was originally the beginning of the year and the time for resumption of war. So, if we need
wartime.
So maybe March is when we'll invade Ukraine.
Yeah, that's... I hope not.
Too real?
Too soon. Oh. Too soon, too real.
Okay. I got my own laugh track here just in case. There we go. And then April, this one was kind of a stretch for me. Aphrodite is the one that April's named after. So I guess we lost the PH.
It's like close enough.
Yeah, close enough.
April.
But that's the Greek goddess of love and beauty. She's identified with the Roman god Venus.
Cute.
May is Maius, month of, I don't know, is that Maya or Maius? Maius, who knows?
I don't know.
Meaning the great one, Italic goddess of spring and fertility, the daughter of Faunus, the wife of Vulcan. So
with those May babies.
Mr. Tumnus is a faun on, right? That's just an aside.
I have no idea.
June is for Juno, the principal goddess of the Roman pantheon of marriage, the well-being of women, and she is the wife and sister of Jupiter, which we also have something named after. Next up is July, and now we're back to where we started with talking about Quintilius being renamed by Julius Caesar after himself to be July, which is my birth month.
Wow, little narcissistic old Julius.
I know. I love how we just let these emperors name months after themselves,
right,
and not fix the numbered months.
The numbers just don't make sense.
This is kind of like an unsatisfying, investigation.
It really
because
is.
You're like, wait a second, my whole life is a lie. These months I've been saying September like an idiot, like sept means 7 for the 9th month. I've been saying that my whole life.
Right.
And come to find out it's just because we were too lazy to fix this stuff.
Right.
So yeah, last but not least is August, and that's it was originally Sextilis.
Okay.
Augustus Caesar clarified and completed the calendar reform of Julius Caesar. In the process, he also named the month after what else but
himself.
So, man, am I right? Their egos.
Just fragile egos of man.
All right, and then last slide, you actually get to see September was originally in the 10-month calendar. It was the 7th month.
As it should be.
8th, 9th, 10th. And so that is our Throwback Thursday. That is the truth behind the conspiracy of the calendar. And I think we need to expose this and throw a massive protest until
we really should.
We can reform the calendar and call it Taylor Month.
Overthrow the government, make ourselves emperors, and then we get Amala month and Taylorist month. And that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's our next goal.
Taylor Augustus.
Taylorist. We'll figure it out, guys. If you want to name a month after me and Taylor, write it down below in the comments after the stream. That's our Throwback Thursday. And I learned something.
Right?
Did you guys learn something? Because I feel like
you learned something you didn't need to know and probably will never need to know or have useful, but it's up there.
I don't know. Maybe one day your kids will be like, Dad, why is October not the 8th month?
Exactly.
When they're learning in school. So, we try to step outside of the box and teach you guys something new. I learn something every single time we do a Throwback Thursday. So it is one of my favorite segments of the week. Let us know what your favorite segment of the week is. Guys, that's our show for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified. Not on PragerU, although you should subscribe and get the notification bell for PragerU as well. But on the Will and Amala live channel, our new channel, I asked you guys to get us to 10K before the end of the week, and you guys did exactly that. Can we get applause for the people who did that? Oh.
Great job, guys.
Great job, guys. You really smash that like button and hit that subscribe button. So I really appreciate everything that you've done for us. We appreciate the support. And the Will and Alma live channel is growing. So thank you guys so much for watching. We're going to be back tomorrow.
Passed 10K yesterday.
We did. We passed 10K. So, guys, we'll be back tomorrow, 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern, with some more hot stories and hot takes.